This is an orchestrated event that is not new. I mentioned this in previous videos about how it's all set up and how it was tested and experimented on during the Occupy movement, which started 5 years ago. How they were testing the population, how they were testing leaders, how they were testing individuals, how they were testing their own police forces, how they were testing the response factors. All of these were test scenarios and also installation programs for stuff like the anonymous group that is sharing information straight from the government. There's no less than 2 anonymous groups. There's an anonymous group that has joined the idea of Anonymous to share information about what's going on behind the scenes. And then there was the co-opted version by the government, which could have been from the beginning, in order to share information to push an agenda just like the mainstream news does. So there's all these various layers of interaction. The same goes for Black Lives Matter. There are the people in the community who are the innocent ones who are just wanting to change things and wanting things to change. Just like in the Occupy, there were people in the community who showed up to put their work in to help feed the homeless, to help people have resources, who were sharing information or running the library or the daycare on the city hall lawn, whatever they were doing. There's people in the community who mean well, who might not be completely informed with the details of the depths of the situations that are going on here, the details of the depths of the politics, or how a lot of this stuff is being orchestrated 10 layers behind the scenes. So the entire Black Lives Matter idea is mainly orchestrated because it is being pushed in order to sell an agenda, instead of an agenda within a reactionary state of being, instead of solutions that are centered around expanding the consciousness outside of the control grid as a whole. These information channels like Alex Jones, they get activated at certain times. So when he's talking about, we're not going to let this, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that, and then he's actually installing the information that allows people to take a side within a storyline that needs individuals to take a side. He's creating that foundation to where instead of sharing information to help people learn and understand, there's a difference between helping people learn and understand information and installing a sentiment or an emotional response to force people to have an emotional decision. This is literally like the art of war, and this is his channel is called InfoWar. So the stance that channels like the Alex Jones program is putting out right now, saying it's like it's for America, it's for like this. And this is another thing, like I constantly say this all the time. This is not an American issue. This is, at one level, it's the colonial issue, which is the most extreme of the entire Earth plane. On the more zeroed in level, this is a United States problem. This is the United States of America. It's not America. This is why they say, like, oh yeah, they're burning the American flag, the American this, the American that. You see, they don't call the military, they don't dare call the military the American Army, the American Navy, the American Marines. They don't call it that. It's the U.S. Army, the U.S. Marines, the U.S. Navy. This is because that is specifically what they are talking about. But every time you hear a reference about this and that in regards to the United States on anything else, it's always America this and America that. It's because they are subconsciously making it bigger, subconsciously putting out this mentality for you to get behind. It's a rally point. And it's really just the foundation to the colonial program as a whole. If they say America, they mean colonialism. They mean this is the colonial program, America. You're basically saying Great Britain. It's the same thing. But on paperwork, it's the United States, and the United States is tiny. So it's a whole mind game that's going on. They put titles out there in front of you, rally points for you to get behind, like America. So Black Lives Matter is easy for people to understand, especially when they're constantly televising what's going on and never really going into the origins of this stuff, but actually just falling into the movie reel. The movie reel are these shootings by these police officers. The movie reel is the shootings of the police officers, not taking away from all the individuals who have been shot and killed by police officers in the past. This is very real stuff that's going on. This is at the heart. This is why I speak on the white supremacy program so much, because this is still slavery time. This is still the lynching program. This is the essence of it. But in order to gain control of that storyline and to manipulate this storyline, they have to put their own spin on it. And they have these spin artists out there. So Alex Jones is a spin artist for the American flag. The Young Turks, Jank, is also one of them too. I just watched a video yesterday where he was talking about where Anna, she expanded about how there's a systematic problem going on within the race discussion of the United States, the police, this whole thing. And then Jank has to balance it out by saying, oh, well, don't make it about the flag. It's not the flag. The globalists don't own the flag, or not the global. He was talking about the corporations. The corporations don't own the flag. So there's these layers. Like Alex Jones talks about the globalists. The Young Turks talk about the corporations. So you have Bernie Sanders out there, who is like basically the corporations and the bankers guy, and the bankers are in between the globalists and the corporations. So you have these spokesmen for these certain layers. So the Bernie program and the Young Turks, who I guess Jank on there, the main guy, is supposed to be somebody who's separated from CNN or MSNBC, wherever he came from, in order to make his own. That's another program, like to make you think it's different, like to make you think that individual is not part of the mainstreams. These are all programs. They tell stories. He's on purpose, whether they know it or not. The majority of them who are all the way up in the top of that game like that, they know what the fuck is going on. They know that they can't say certain shit. They know that they are not supposed to mention the origins of things. They know this stuff. So if they know that, then they know exactly what it is that they're doing when they do say certain things all the time. So you got the semi-political, or the corporate focus. Then you have the globalist focus, and Alex Jones is the globalist focus. So he sets the tone for the whole martial law, police state, information spreading. He is part of that program that puts out the information that gets people more focused on the gun stuff, more focused on the program as a whole from within a reactionary space, a powerless. These are powerless programs. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Everything on the Alex Jones channel and everything on Young Turks, everything in the Black Lives Matter, these are powerless, hopeless states of being. These are all existing within the reactionary state of mind of the movie reel that is this political game, that is the brainchild of the white supremacy program as a whole. As long as you keep fighting the movie, you will never understand the directors and the producers and the origins of the theater. If you continually get caught up in these movie reels with these politicians who are criminals, with these news anchors who are magicians, with these alternative news people who are complex magicians who just push the narrative of the control grid as a whole, These are various layers. They're everywhere. It's an ongoing thing. It's an obvious space once you really start to put all these pieces together. And I don't look too much in there. I look here and there for certain. I can't watch too many of Alex Jones actually speak. I can't like hear his voice and that whole thing. It's just fucking annoying. So I listen to stuff here and there to see what's going on, but that's really all you need. And then you can understand the design of the setup, where each video is selling these survival kits and all this other stuff at the end, which is just that's, like I said in other videos, it's about the commercials. They want, all these videos are just reasons to have commercials. So the commercials are where it's really at. So if you have commercials all the time talking about you need to buy this water or this survival kit and things are bad all over the world, and like this is all this hopeless state of existence. It's all based in a reaction. You're giving your power away. My point is that we collectively and individually have the potential to think outside of this, as long as we have the understanding that these people do not, the so-called powers that be, they have no interest in taking care of you. Every single area that they have been in so-called control of has been manipulated to actually kill you. The medical industry is prescription drug focused. The public education system is a limitation and supremacy program installation the physical reality science community. It's all a psychological enslavement. The food industry is layered with cancer. Cigarettes are legal. Alcohol is legal, and those are the main killers. Food, cigarettes, alcohol. The main killers are all legal and part of this corporate government program. This energy, these entities have no empathy for you. You are batteries. You are slaves. You are nothing but a piece of living meat that, in order for them to exist as having power, they have to keep that meat fresh. So they ingest or inject that, like that red meat coloring shit that they put inside meat inside the stores, and they keep the individuals and the populace as a whole in a low vibrating state of being, in order for the populace to not be completely informed that we have been enslaved to the umpteenth degree, and that they are pushing even further in the emotional body, in the lower chakras, keeping you in that fight or flight survival mode mentality by continually still lynching people on the streets and then televising it on the news, and then making you create an atmosphere for the so-called powers to be to make some move, do something, make something happen. And that's when they push this legislation. If you ask the so-called powers that be to give to make more power for themselves, then they will do that, and they will take more power away from you. And they utilize these artificial demigods, these celebrities that have been put in your face, to make it look like it's something happening. They're no different than the Alex Joneses. They're no different than the manipulated Black Lives Matter stuff. It's all a show for you to have no concept of thinking outside of the slavery box, no concept of thinking outside of the control grid, and the fact that the entire system needs to be addressed. There's two sides. There's one for the people to address the entire system from the people's heart, and then there's what's being manipulated right now is the system to be addressed from a deeper control grid. And that's what's being manipulated now with the whole Alex Jones talk about globalists and the race war stuff that's being put out there. The presidential candidates who are just, they're not qualified to be any kind of mayor or any kind of, if they were candidates for a mayor of Oakland, they wouldn't even win. If they were candidates for mayor of any city, they wouldn't even, they'd be ripped apart. So they're making an obvious program to systematically implode all these systems in order to install a deeper system, a deeper program, more grips. So this is what I was talking about before, where they were getting ready to bring in like the United Nations, or at least speak on some kind of international change, for the better. And what actually is fueling my understanding of how this is going down is because Obama has actually, in his last speech about these shootings, was speaking about the race problem. He actually said it. Like before, he was avoiding it. Like before now, he was avoiding everything, and then he was just like saying, well, this is just, sad, this is just like, he was taking this stance of, oh yeah, this is sad and this and that. But now when you formally take a stance on race, then you are shifting gears. And that's what he has done. He has shifted gears in order to push the agenda further into the perspectives of, okay, well, this, because there are people who are still like the Alex Jones channel. He's still, or this channel is out there to push the whole, well, there is no race problem. Like there is a race issue, but it's not the focus. They wanna use that as the idea to so race war is their sort of like thing that they're using as to make the government the bad guys. And that's true. Like they are pushing this whole racial issue. At the same time, when they approach it from that perspective, they are avoiding the depths of the white supremacy program in the system as a whole. And then they back up the whole like, well, we're talking about the United States, the American flag and all this stuff, and we have values in the Constitution, and we have rights and all this other stuff. And so it's a complicated, the tentacles of this control grid and this mind manipulation goes in and out of everything. And the Alex Jones channel is setting up, just like the Young Turks, is setting up the response factor of this has nothing to do with race. And they're saying that in order to supposedly avoid a race war, but that mentality is designed to distract from and hide the depths of the story of the supremacy program as a whole. So to have all of these different stories. Also, so back to Obama. So Obama is actually saying like there's definitely, he was calling, I think, he was saying something about like we need to have police reform, or you have to look at the facts. Like the facts are this happens, and then Alex Jones comes up with the facts and says, well, it's not about race. They're just using those numbers to put it out there and make it seem like it's about race. So you have the protagonist, who is supposed to be, this is why you have a black president right now. Like if you go all the way back, this has been planned for a long time. So this is why there's a black, coincidentally, there's all this race shit going on when there's a black president. And now you have a black president who hasn't spoken on any race relation shit since he's been in office. Now he's basically forced into a position to say something supposedly right when he's going to get out of office, right before the next presidential thing that's going on, right when the mainstream media is being revealed for all the bullshit when it's been pulled out, right when Trump comes out of nowhere, right when Bernie Sanders comes out of nowhere, starts talking about all this shit, right when all this Brexit shit happens. This is not a fucking mistake. This is a program. This is a movie. This is a movie that they are running and playing with actual people's lives, people's actual blood on the streets. This is happening, and they mix in this movie, they mix in real shit with artificial shit in order to make that movie more action-packed. So they can't just play what is happening on the streets, because people won't engage in it and they won't believe it and they won't play along. They have to have hoaxes mixed in with false flags, mixed in with actual shootings. And they pull the triggers when the robots within their system of control actually kill people. When people actually get shot by police officers 5 times, when they're unarmed and tagged down, when they get choked out on the streets, that's when they make their moves. The artificial movie reel gets moved. That they are the actors, and the system as a whole, the shit that's actually happening on the streets, is the director for the movie. And then they make their moves based upon what happens in real life, and then they activate it with some fake shit here and there. So, not saying everything is fake and all. I'm saying that there are definitely things that are happening on the streets, but there are definitely these hoaxes and false flags that are also a part of this system, that are there to make the movie more. They're the special effects to somebody actually getting shot on the scene. So in order to make like a movie more believable, they have to add those special effects. And these special effects are the way they expand the storyline, expand the conversation, expand the sentiment of the original intent. So you can see these shootings that these police officers did on these unarmed individuals happens one day, and then the next day some police shootings happen, and then the story's all about the police shooting. And then you can activate this whole America mentality, and the boys in blue, and this whole like, we need to protect our people who protect us. And like, no, like, this is a systematic problem. And then so that creates the good guys and the bad guys. So you have the so-called good guys, like the Alex Joneses, calling the so-called bad guys, the Obamas, bad because they're talking about race and the systematic program, and installing or attempting to install a deeper control grid. But you also have the so-called good guys like Alex Jones, who are actually the undercover bad guys, because they are setting up the foundation, the platform, the emotional response grid within the system for the globalist bad guys to make a move. This is how the movie is set up. If you are focusing in on these orchestrated versions, like the Alex Jones channel, like the Young Turks, like the mainstream media, like the politics as they are played in front of you, then that is, you're watching how the movie reel is being activated. And the only way to understand how it's being moved along is to really understand like what they're talking about, what they're doing, and how it all fits together. They're not mutually exclusive. This is one storyline, and everybody that's within this storyline is a part of it. So Obama is being put out there to be the good guy. Now that he's, and this goes back to what I said like 10 months ago or something, where I was talking about how they're going to use him as they have never pulled the Obama card. Like, he's been quiet, he's been non-aggressive, he's been not campaign Obama the entire time. He's been President Obama. So they're going to use him in his last days to push some kind of narrative that will push the global agenda, and also make the global agenda out to be the good guys. And while you're having these alternative news people pushing the agenda to create a bad guy situation, a bad guy scenario, in order to make that program more realistic. And meanwhile, the people on the streets are just going to keep playing the movie reel because there's no other movies in the theater. These are the only movies to watch and be a part of. So it's like a big thing now. And you make it like an interactive movie when you have these celebrities getting involved, when you have social media activated as so big as it is right now. This is why Instagram put this whole minute version of videos out there now. These are not mistakes. These are systematic timings. This is why you have people making movies and channels on Facebook now. This is why Facebook was out there, and to bring people together and all this other shit. If you understand that the government runs Facebook and Instagram, then you know that they are putting it out there for their benefit. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a damn about you communicating with your great aunt that lives in Maryland. They don't give a fuck about that shit. This is about systematic and psychological control. And they need people to be, if you can't be unified or connected, if you can't be connected on your own, then they will make you be connected on your own. Because if you're connected on your own, then you can create your own superpower, an uninformed superpower that sets the foundation for the global superpower or the international superpower to make their next move of a global superpower. This is an orchestra. They are orchestrating the masses to become more massive so that they can have a reason to make themselves more controlling, more powerful, more massive as a control group. So this is why social media is connected. This is why our so-called black president came out of nowhere. This is why Bernie Sanders came out of nowhere talking about bankers and all this other stuff at this time frame. This is why Trump is out there right now to make Hillary Clinton look like she should be at all in the speakings of being a president, when none of them should be a fucking president. This is why they're out there right now as the last two candidates, so you can be happy that you don't have the candidates of Trump and Hillary, so they can keep this global move. If they keep whatever the options are right now, one of the main ones that looks obvious to me is that they push this global agenda and leave Obama in some kind of control scenario in the presidential limbo, because it's just a fucking disaster to have either Trump or Hillary in charge of a country that is already like killing its population. Like, they will just push it even further. So that makes it makes your options for you. It creates your decisions for you by making things so bad. That's like what Trump is for Hillary. They know each other. They're fucking best friends. They're buddies. Just like Obama is best friends with Beyonce and that whole thing, like, and that whole mentality, the celebrities, the connection with Hollywood to the government, and the connection with the government to Black Lives Matter, and the connection with the government to these alternative news sources, knowing they can't talk about some certain things. Like, look at all these fucking videos on here. All these videos where they're talking about all kinds of shit. And you know, there's a code there. They can talk about certain shit, and then they can't talk about certain shit. There's a code there, and the code is being reinforced by the agendas that they are a part of. So the Young Turks definitely talks a lot about certain things, and then they don't talk about other things. And then the Alex Jones, they can't, because, and they're smart enough. You know, they're smart enough to be talking about stuff. They actually get shut down. Like Anna Kasparian on there, like, she can be talking about a lot more stuff, but she's limited by how that whole network is controlled, and she might know it, she might not. Alex Jones very much knows, and everybody on this channel knows what the fuck they are doing. They know when they have these commercials and are making a profit off of this systematic takedown. They are making a profit from all this survival food and all this shit. They know what the fuck is going on here. So these are all part of the program. These are part of the system. Alex Jones is like the Fox News, and the Young Turks is like the CNN. And the CNN and the Fox News is just the same what they've always been doing. And that's actually what the government is making their moves on, based upon the shallow layers of news stories and the shallow layers of what's going on, supposedly going on the streets. This is a Steven Spielberg action movie slash horror movie slash science fiction and non-fiction mixed movie, and the actors are the population as a whole. You fit in somewhere. Which actor will you be? Which position will you take? Which part of the movie do you want to be a part of? Are you gonna be like you can be a superhero and you can go out there and like protest and do this, or you can be like an action hero and go out there and go do whatever it is that you think is gonna help the people and all this other stuff. It's like, no, like, if you don't expand outside of this movie reel, and I use the term movie reel to emphasize the orchestration, not to take away from how real this shit is that's going on, but to emphasize the orchestrated version of this scenario is more of the reality than what's really going on at the roots of these problems, at the roots of these informations. Nobody's going into the roots of this stuff. This is why it makes it a movie. This is why it makes it so believable to a lot of people, because people have been living in the movie for so long. You have the local news stations who tell even a worse version of what's going on the streets and all this other stuff. Fires, arsons, kidnappings, rapes, robberies. That's your everyday murders, like this, like every day. That's a psychological manipulation. It's a program. And these shows like InfoWars and the Young Turks, they're only out there to make it more, get you more informed on how the movie is being played, so-called behind the scenes. It's not. It's within the scenes. Within these scenes. They're not talking about stuff behind the scenes. These are the scenes, and they get activated at certain time frames. It's all connected. It's all connected with the colonial program, the distraction from, a lot of the things that could bring us together, a lot of the things that are real, a lot of the things that are out there that are just bigger than the control grid story. And I really wanted to do this video to emphasize that this orchestrated emotional response movie reel is it's amping up. When Obama starts talking about race finally, then that is a definite move, because channels like InfoWars are totally about it not being about race. They want you to talk about money and the globalists and what they've been talking about. So they're gonna activate their whole like mentality on like, oh yeah, well, he's trying to spark a race war and all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, that's part of the storyline, but it's not the whole thing. Like, you have to integrate it further and understand this whole thing. And they don't want to do that. They want to keep you angry. They want to keep you angry and anything else that is like angry, which is keeps you in the lower chakras, instead of understanding the spiritual storyline, the spiritual slavery that's going on. This is a spiritual slavery that is being distracted by the physical reality. And to emphasize the spiritual slavery, people who are having troubles like, oh, you're not, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, no, when your baby's feet, when you get a birth certificate and for your kid, and they take the soles of your baby's feet and stamp it on that certificate of ownership by the state, that is a soul contract, literally. They spell it SOLE with your baby's feet, but your fingerprints, like when you get your fingerprints taken to join the military, that's no different than them taking your baby feet prints. This is why they only do it for your baby, because they got you. They got your soul contract. They got your spiritual contract. Once your baby feet hit that ink and hit that certificate, it's up to you to figure out how to get out. It's up to that baby to figure out how to get out of that soul contract by understanding how deep this storyline goes. That is a soul contract. And everybody who is within this system thinking they have rights because of the Constitution, and the only reason why people believe they have rights because of the Constitution is because the rest of the world is even worse off. They're at the side effect version of the slavery program. We just have like shit here in the United States that is doggy treats, cancer sticks that you can survive on, that is actually equally as part of this control grid program. But it's all the same movie reel, and they play each storyline off of each other. But this is a soul contract. This goes down to your baby feet. And if we don't go that far, if we continue to be caught up within the movie reel, the high school election mentality, which is obviously what this is, then we won't see the origins, the roots of this program down to our actual soul contracts that have been artificial soul contracts that have been institutionalized on top of us, that have been installed within the way we experience our human reality, beyond all this political shit. This empowers them. The info wars and the Young Turks and the Black Lives Matter, it empowers them. Like when you're saying Black Lives Matter, yeah, it's obvious that Black Lives Matter, but the more empowering space to come from is to explain where the origins of humanity are. And the matter of those facts. The Black Lives Matter is a response within the slavery mentality, within the lack of understanding that melanated people were already all over the planet before the Columbus program. See, this is post-Columbian. Black Lives Matter mentality is the post-Columbian colonization program to get you fighting within that program. In order to truly inhabit a power space, you have to expand your level of consciousness into the pre-Columbian era, into understanding how the indigenous people were connected to the earth plane as a whole. Everything after Columbus is a cancer. The only way we don't see it as a cancer is because we have all these creature comforts of technology and this artificial version of our cosmos, this artificial version of human nature, and this artificial version of security with the military-industrial complex. This is the only reason why we feel comfortable with this stuff, is because the story has been told over and over and over again that this is how it works. It's not. It's the movie reel. We have to go deeper than the Roots program that goes on the History Channel that tells you that you were a slave. There's no fucking mistake that Roots came on. They redid Roots right before all this shit goes down. Like right at this time frame. This is a time. This shit has been planned for decades. They are in control on an international scale. You don't think they're gonna try to protect that shit? They are in the space of by any means necessary. They are in that mentality. They've been in that mentality. Obviously, if they've been killing people on a regular basis without any sense of remorse, concern, empathy, or compassion for you or anybody. They don't give one fuck about you. That flag, that fucking Constitution, that is there to make you think like they give a fuck about you. They don't. They don't know how to give a fuck about anybody else but themselves. They don't have the capacity. These entities don't think on that level. They don't have that emotional connection to you when you are seen as a battery, as a slave, as a dog, as less than an animal, as just a thing. Like this is a program. And if we don't understand how deep this shit goes, then we'll get caught up within it. Yeah, understand these soul contracts of these birth certificates, the Admiralty Maritime Law. understand how far this shit goes back, understand your history, pre-Columbian history, to truly empower yourself beyond the just the artificial versions of, you know, Black Lives Matter. That mentality is like, to who? Like, it matters to a power grid. Yeah, it matters to us. Yeah, that's where it matters. But beyond that, you can go into a space of, well, this whole grid is set up to create a space to have people reacting in that way, still giving your power away. It's a powerless, hopeless state of being. It already starts out at that space when you're talking like that. It's the victim. We have been victimized, but we are not, the victimized space is not a power space. It's not a power center. That victimization program is where they want individuals to be. And the Black Lives, though, even the wording, the sentiment of the Black Lives Matter mentality is right where they want people to be. So you can fight back. That's fight the power. Even that, it's like, they have the power. When you say that, fight the power, you are giving them the power. It's like, you have the power. You are the power. Inhabit the power instead of psychologically giving it away by getting caught up in that movie reel.